Good morning to all. Into the weather news bulletin. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now entering the very peak of the Atlantic hurricane season, the period which, according to decades of meteorological statistics, usually brings the highest number of tropical cyclones, often in rapid succession, marching from the coast of Africa across the Atlantic toward the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, and sometimes striking directly at the U.S. East Coast. Yet right now, in these early days of September, what has captured the attention of both forecasters and the public is the unusual absence of any noteworthy disturbances. One tropical wave that was once expected to develop into a tropical depression, and perhaps even earn the name Gabrielle, has instead fizzled, breaking apart into scattered thunderstorms with no organization. What we see at the moment are just loose clusters of convective clouds across the vast Atlantic, with no evidence of a forming circulation. This is a rare scene at a time of year when tropical activity should normally be at its most energetic and frequent. Looking at this morning's satellite imagery, you can see that from the Gulf of Mexico through the Caribbean, conditions appear strangely calm. Over the Atlantic, only some scattered storm clusters are visible, mostly the natural response to a passing trough of low pressure and a cooler air mass sliding down the U.S. East Coast. Behind that trough, cooler, drier air from the north has created an invisible wall, suppressing the organization of thunderstorms. Typically by this stage, the National Hurricane Center would highlight at least a few special areas of interest, with development chances over the next week. Instead, the official forecast map remains completely blank, clearly stating, no tropical cyclone activity expected during the next 7 days. Many experts have admitted that this season's pattern so far is both surprising and quite unlike previous years. However, calm seas should not be mistaken for safety. Long experience shows that when cool air masses push southward and frontal boundaries stall offshore or over the southeastern U.S., there is always a risk of homegrown systems developing. These are low-pressure centers that form close to the coast, feeding off the still warm ocean waters in September and lingering thunderstorm activity. While such systems rarely have enough time to grow into major hurricanes, they can be particularly dangerous because they form very near land, leaving little time for warnings and preparation. In the next 7 to 10 days, forecasters say 2 areas deserve special attention: the waters just off the southeastern U.S. from northern Florida through Georgia up to the Carolinas, and the Gulf of Mexico, especially the southern Bay of Campeche. Global models suggest that when the stalled front lingers near the coast, repeated clusters of storms will flare up over the warm sea surface. If any one of these clusters can remain persistent for 24 to 48 hours, while wind shear weakens and mid-level moisture improves, it could become the seed of a new tropical low. At present there are no clear signs of such development, but the broader atmospheric pattern is creating a fertile environment, one that must be monitored closely. Looking at the global forecast models, the GFS in some runs shows a shallow low developing off the southeast coast by late next week or early the following week, with a few scenarios even spinning it up into a small tropical storm hugging the shoreline. The European ECMWF model is more cautious, showing nothing more than stormy rain bands pulsing along the front, without a clear center of circulation. The ICON model and various ensemble members highlight weak, low-pressure seeds, scattered around, indicating that the environment could favor days of heavy rainfall and localized low development, but not necessarily a well-defined storm. In short, the models agree only in concept. Conditions off the southeast coast and in the Gulf are ripe for homegrown activity, though confidence in any specific storm forming remains very low. So what has made the Atlantic, normally so busy in September, fall so quiet? Experts point to 3 main factors. First, persistent layers of dry air, sometimes mixed with Saharan dust, at mid-levels of the atmosphere. This quickly robs thunderstorms of their moisture, preventing sustained growth. Second, upper-level wind shear has remained fairly strong, disrupting the vertical structure that tropical cyclones need. And third, large-scale climate oscillations like the Madden-Julian Oscillation, MJO, have not yet shifted into a favorable phase. meaning the broader circulation of the basin has not given the green light for storms to flourish. Together, these factors have repeatedly choked off tropical waves that otherwise carried strong potential. Meanwhile, for residents of the eastern U.S., attention is also focused on the incoming spell of cooler, drier air that will dominate in the coming days. As the trough sweeps through, persistent northeast winds will funnel refreshing air southward. Dew points in many places will drop into the 40s and 50s Fahrenheit, 5 to 12 degrees Celsius, creating that crisp, airy feel so characteristic of early autumn. Cool mornings, mild afternoons, and pleasantly chilly evenings will become the daily rhythm for millions from the mid-Atlantic down through the southeast, lasting at least 7 to 10 days. This is quite a sharp seasonal shift. Just a few weeks ago, many areas were still sweltering in oppressive heat, but now they will enjoy a sudden taste of fall. To give a fuller picture, let's look at the regional forecast for the U.S. over the next 7 to 10 days. Northeast, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New England, passing showers in the mornings as the trough moves through, followed by clearing skies, highs around 22 to 26 degrees Celsius, with nighttime lows dropping to 14 to 17 degrees Celsius. Cities like New York and Boston can expect refreshing mornings and more comfortable conditions for commuting and outdoor activities. Mid-Atlantic and Southeast, Virginia, Carolinas, Georgia, North Florida, northeast winds will deliver cooler, drier air inland. Coastal areas, however, remain prone to repeated showers along the stalled front. Charleston, Savannah, and Jacksonville may see frequent downpours causing slick roads and minor flooding in low-lying spots. Inland cities like Atlanta and Raleigh will be drier and more comfortable, with highs of 26 to 29 degrees Celsius and lows of 17 to 20 degrees Celsius. Florida Peninsula, conditions remain distinctly tropical. Afternoon thunderstorms will flare up daily, often bringing heavy rain in short bursts. Cities like Miami, Tampa, and Orlando may face prolonged downpours with temporary street flooding, with humidity staying high and daytime highs near 30 to 32 degrees Celsius. It will feel muggy and oppressive before the rains arrive. Gulf Coast, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, moist air off the Gulf continues to fuel daily scattered thunderstorms. Southern Texas and coastal Louisiana may experience multi-hour rains, raising the risk of urban flooding. In Houston and New Orleans, residents are advised to keep drainage systems clear. Highs 30 to 32 degrees Celsius, lows 23 to 25 degrees Celsius, with high humidity making conditions feel sticky. Midwest, northern states like Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa will enjoy much cooler weather, with some rural morning lows dipping below 10 degrees Celsius. Dry skies will dominate, creating a classic fall feel. However, Central Plains states like Kansas, Nebraska, and Oklahoma may see isolated severe storms where cool northern air collides with Gulf moisture, bringing gusty winds, lightning, and small hail. Western U.S., California, Nevada, Arizona, mostly dry, though deserts remain hot with highs above 35 degrees Celsius. Still, the extreme heat of summer has eased. The Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon, may see occasional light rain, but no significant weather hazards are expected. All of this highlights a striking paradox. Just when the Atlantic should be roaring with storms, we are instead seeing a rare calm. Yet this calm may only be temporary. The atmospheric setup is shifting, and it may take only one persistent storm cluster over warm seas, or a timely dip in wind shear, for a coastal tropical low to suddenly take shape. That's why residents along the southeast and Gulf coasts must remain vigilant and closely follow official forecasts. For now, the good news is that millions in the eastern U.S., from the mid-Atlantic to the southeast, will enjoy a refreshing stretch of cooler, drier weather this early September, a perfect chance to embrace the fall season. Get outdoors and breathe in crisp air after weeks of heavy heat. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this morning's Weather News Bulletin. We will continue to provide the latest updates on Atlantic developments as well as U.S. weather conditions, helping you stay fully prepared. Thank you for joining us, and we wish you a peaceful, energized day. See you again in our next report.